Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Square Wave 2. Today we're going to look at the Hallicrafters S-120 shortwave receiver. Did you ever wonder where the name Hallicrafters came from? Well, it's a composite of two words, the founder's name, Bill Halligan, and handcrafted, hence Hallicrafters. Bill's slogan was, "Handcraft makes perfect." Hallicrafters was the premier name in shortwave radio from the 1930s through the 1970s. They were essential in the production of military radio equipment during World War II. Their radios ran the gamut from entry-level to expensive rigs for the radio amateur to military equipment. The S-120 was an entry-level radio priced to sell at $69.95. It was made from 1961 to 1964. It replaced the Hallicrafters S-38 series of entry-level radios, which were produced from 1946 to 1961. It's interesting to see how radios that are electrically similar can be made to look so different. For example, here is the very first S-38 and the very last one, the S-38E. Both are entry-level radios. Here you see the original S-38, the first one, introduced in 1946. It sold for $47.50. Unlike the S-38 radios which came after this one had a sixth tube, and this tube was for the BFO oscillator. Here you see the very last one in the S-38 series. This is the S-38E. It was made between 1957 and 1961. Selling price, $59.95. Of course, it looks nothing like the original S-38, and it looks nothing like the S-120 we're examining today. Well, it's pretty clear that industrial design was an important part of merchandising. I think the S-120 was the best design. Let's take a look at the front panel and the controls of the S-120. Here's a rundown of your controls. Over here we have band spread. That's fine tuning. Here we have on-off volume. Here's a jack for your headphones. Here's the BFO switch. Here's a switch for receive standby. Here's a 4-position band selector switch. And here is the main tuning. The BFO, beat frequency oscillator for listening to code, was accomplished by making the first IF stage oscillate. This was far from ideal, but it was cheap to produce. The standby receive switch would be used in the unlikely event that this radio was paired with a transmitter. Up here we have a nice big slide rule dial with the frequencies 640 and 1240 kilocycles clearly marked. These were the Conelrad stations for emergency broadcasting in the event of an attack during the Cold War. The lower three scales here are for the shortwave bands. Here you see a nice clean chassis with no rust and no corrosion. Here's the internal speaker. Here are two IF transformers. Here's the ferrite rod antenna for AM. Here's the main tuning capacitor, the band spread tuning capacitor. Here is an electrolytic CAN capacitor replacement. Replacing these old CAN capacitors is always a problem. Fortunately, I found a company making them for specific radios. They are called Hayseed Hamfest. A strange name, I know. Hayseed Hamfest. Look for them online. No power transformer in this set because it is an AC-DC set. Here's the tube lineup. 50C5 power output, 12BA6 IF amp, 12BE6 converter, and down here 12AV6 automatic volume control and audio amp. Why only 4 tubes? The usual number of tubes for an AC-DC set is 5, All-American 5. Well, Hallicrafters replaced the usual tube rectifier with one of the first solid-state devices, a selenium rectifier, which I replaced with a modern diode. Turning the chassis over, we see a maze of point-to-point wiring. Each one of these components was meticulously hand-soldered in place on the assembly line. Potentiometers, resistors, transformers, capacitors, variable capacitors, switches, coils, etc. Today, most of this circuitry could be condensed into one or two integrated circuits, believe it or not. These S-120s are available on eBay, but most of them have seen much better days. This one needed some work. First, I replaced the electrolytic can capacitor with one I got from Hayseed Hamfest. Strange name, Hayseed Hamfest. Then I replaced the volume control, the BFO control, the selenium rectifier, some capacitors, and the AC cord. Like all AC-DC radios, this one could have a dangerous electrically charged chassis, what we call a hot chassis, although Hallicrafters tried to minimize this. To make it absolutely safe, I replaced the AC cord with one having a polarized plug. The wire from the hot side of the wall outlet going directly to the on-off switch in the radio. The wire from the cold or neutral side going to the floating B-. For more information on radio safety, please see my video, Hallicrafters S-120 Potential Killer. In this day of cell phones, satellites, and the internet, it's hard to imagine that a few years ago, shortwave was the only means of long-distance communication, and having your own shortwave receiver was really a big deal. I will never forget the day my dad brought home a portable shortwave receiver from Montgomery Ward's. Remember Montgomery Ward's? I've been collecting, restoring, and selling radios ever since. Let me read you a passage from page 1 of the S-120 Owner's Guide. And I quote, "And only through shortwave can you hear in a single day a Wagnerian opera from Heidelberg, a news broadcast from behind the Iron Curtain, and an airport control tower bringing in a crippled plane. Every moment of every day and night, shortwave brings into your home an absorbing new interest, a fascinating way to keep up with international affairs, to be informed and to stay informed." Pretty exciting stuff, huh? Well, this S-120 is going in my radio collection where it will safely remain for years to come. That's it, folks. Be patriotic, wear your mask, and stay safe. Thank you for watching.